Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to No Final Bell episode 7. As always, you know, I'm prepared. Marty isn't, but
Well,
it's alright. Um, we're going to start with some Impact news, and we're
Yeah.
going to head into Rochester, AEW, and AEW Dynamite and Rampage. But at first, we're going to talk about some Impact. Marty can go right ahead with that.
yes. Impact Wrestling started off with the first triple threat match in the tournament to crown a new X Division champion, and it was Trey Miguel versus Laredo Kid, or no, it was Trey Miguel. Either way, Trey Miguel won the match. I don't exactly remember the other two members, but Trey Miguel won the first triple threat match in the tournament, and oh yes, it was Laredo Kid. And Matthew Raywalt seems to be impressed, and he's taken. He may want to step in the ring with Laredo Kid, which, you know, who's to say they couldn't square off someone at some point in time? But unfortunately, there is some sad news, and there is some disappointing news in the fact that Sami Callihan is unfortunately out with an ankle injury. It is legit. I saw the post on Twitter. He got some plates and rods, plates and screws in his ankle, which will unfortunately rule him out for a little bit of time. But regardless, I'm hoping that Sami Callihan can make a speedy recovery. Next, we had The Influence versus Jordan Grace and Rachel Ellering to determine the new number one contenders for the Knockouts Tag Team Championships at Knockouts Knockdown on October 9th. The winners of that match, I should say, were The Influence. They will be going on to Knockouts Knockdown to challenge Havoc and Rosemary for the Knockouts Tag Team titles. Next week, though, at Bound for Glory, the Good Brothers were having a little chit chat and whatnot. So next week they have made it official: Finn Juice versus Bullet Club to determine the number one contenders for the tag team titles at Bound for Glory. And then after that, man, I'm telling you right now, that brawl is quite possibly the best brawl ever on Impact Wrestling, or even just in general. Mickie James and Deonna Purrazzo had a brawl in a country-like setting because, you know, Mickie James is hardcore country, so it makes sense. Then we had Christopher Daniels making his long-awaited return to Impact Wrestling.
It was about time.
That eye is not looking particularly great, but a lot of people online are saying that, you know, with enough time it will heal, and I'm hoping that it does heal.
I think so too, honestly.
Daniels, because, you know, the argument can be made that he probably shouldn't have done the spot, but regardless, he won his return match against Madman Fulton. Speaking of Madman Fulton, next week we have a match between Madman Fulton and Ace Austin versus Josh Alexander and Christian Cage. That is sure to be a pretty good, decent match. But the big return, besides Christopher Daniels, it was a big return. But the bigger of the two, Heath. I talked about it before on the show. Heath returned to Impact to help fend Rhino off from a potential attack from Violent by Design.
But
however, Rhino is still undecided on whether or not he wants to stick with Violent by Design or rejoin his former tag team partner.
I don't know. See, the crazy thing about Rhino right now is I know he has his hands tied and his hands full on who he really wants to go with. But I think all in all, if I had to make a prediction, I think he's going to do the right thing. I think he's going to go team back up with Heath. They had a good thing going.
Yeah.
Could eventually lead with them going to win the Impact World Tag Team titles. At least I'm hoping so. But if I know anything about wrestling, something tells me that he's going to turn heelish. Heath is going to be on his own, eventually lead into some kind of singles run. But honestly, I think Impact was the right place for him to have that kind of singles run because he definitely wasn't going to ever get anywhere with
Yeah.
WWE.
Yeah. Well,
At least Impact, he could eventually become X Division champion
yeah.
or the world champion or, do something in the tag team division.
Well, that's that's
Apparently, there's some that new title coming to Impact Wrestling. I don't know if it's legit or not.
I did first I'm hearing of it. Either way, Heath will address the Impact Zone next week, but also next week, kicking off the Digital Media Championship Tournament
Yeah, that's what I'm
is.
talking about.
Oh yes, okay.
That's what I'm talking
Yes,
about. That new
that
championship.
is the new championship that is revealed by Impact Wrestling. Next week we will have 2 matches to kick off the tournament to crown the first ever Digital Media Champion. We have John Schuyler versus Zicky Dice, outlandish Zicky Dice, and we have Hernandez versus Crazy Steve.
Hernandez.
Yes, Hernandez versus Crazy Steve. Also next week, we have Finjuice and Chris Sabin versus Bullet Club. We have Black Taurus versus Steve Macklin. Even though my notes say Steve Marlin, it is Steve Macklin versus Petey Williams in the X Division title tournament. But also, the main event of Impact Wrestling this week, or I should say last week, was Eddie Edwards versus W. Morrissey, formerly Big Cass, in a street fight. Eddie Edwards picks up the win. However, shenanigans happened after the match, and Eddie Edwards was brutally beaten down by Moose and W. Morrissey, and so was his wife. However, Eddie Edwards got the worst of it. He was Pillmanized by Moose with a chair around his neck, and yeah, Eddie Edwards probably going to be off of television for a little bit after, the getting Pillmanized. But regardless, that is Impact Wrestling for last week. We'll have to wait and see what happens this week. We got a pretty good lineup of matches this week, but
Yeah, I mean, I think that Impact is definitely looking pretty good going forward.
who do you think is going to be the first digital media champion?
Me? Oh, God, I have no idea, honestly. Probably,
It might be a surprise as to who might
probably,
be the
I want to
first.
say probably Hernandez, if anything, even though he's up there in age.
Me personally, I would like it to be Zicky Dice, because I would like to see Zicky Dice break out from Brian Myers, but at the same time, they might have something long term planned for this whole thing with Zicky Dice and Brian Myers. Because personally, I don't know, excuse me, it's one of those weird things of I'm kind of a fan of Zicky Dice, but I'm not really that big of a fan of Zicky Dice. So it's a weird thing for me because I would love to see Zicky Dice get his moment. He is a former NWA television champion, but at the same time, it's he. I feel like if he was to be the first digital media champion, it would kind of feel a little rushed. But then again, he doesn't really need to establish himself that much. He already has a presence outside of Impact Wrestling. Like I said, former NWA television champion. So,
Right. I mean,
the man beat Ricky Starks for the title, by the way. That's a big deal. Especially considering that Ricky Starks currently is the FTW champion in AEW. Even though that title doesn't mean much.
and I mean, I didn't want to really talk about it, but apparently, Ricky Starks. I mean, well, I guess we can talk about it. I mean, leading it into something. Ricky Starks, yes, is currently in AEW as the FTW champion, But apparently, him and Brian Cage, that whole thing fiasco is not over with. Ricky Stark still wants a little piece of Brian Cage. I'm sorry, Brian Cage, if he beats Ricky Starks this time, if it leads into a match at Full Gear, fine. But the thing is, after the fact, we talked about it before. Do something more with him. If it's cool and it's fine and dandy that you want to have Ricky Starks go up against Brian Cage. I get it, storyline base. I kind of figured that the whole CM Punk and Will Hobbs and Hook type of thing would have been a one-off type of thing, which it definitely seems like it's happening. It's just like a one-off Rampage match that happened between CM Punk and Will Hobbs. Maybe it can lead into a match against Hook. I think CM Punk should go up against somebody else. Of course, we're recording when AEW just happened. We are not going to talk about that event at all. We are going to be talking about that next week. We are only to talk about what happened last Wednesday, which was in Rochester, the home of Brodie Lee. Tell you what, Brodie Lee was definitely felt like he was in the building with how many people were just chanting his name. I'm glad that Rochester did the right thing to have the Huber family out there. Brodie Jr., Brodie,
Brodie's wife Amanda.
Yeah, Brodie's wife Amanda, and then also the young one there.
And Nolan. Yes, yep. Little Nolan.
But if I want to say anything, the other thing is apparently Malachi Black still wants Cody Rhodes. I think it's going to eventually lead to a match. Don't be shocked if Cody Rhodes ends up taking the victory at Full Gear if they do wrestle each other, Malachi and Cody. As far as that, I mean, yes, it would be cool to see Malachi beat Cody yet again, but don't be shocked if Cody wins this match and turns heel. I think it's coming. I think the heel turn for Cody is coming. Of course, we'll talk about what happened with Cody and Arn a little bit later in the show. But right now, Cody is not the hands-on favorite. He got booed.
The odds-on favorite.
Yeah, odds-on favorite. He's not the odds-on favorite. He's been getting booed. He's gotten booed the last 2 weeks. I don't know what happened, with him this week. Of course, we will not talk about that. But he got booed in New York City. He got booed in Rochester, which was interesting.
New York just hates Cody Rhodes.
I mean, I don't know if it... Philadelphia is also a very harsh crowd, so he might have gotten even worse.
Who knows?
But, again, we don't know. We start off Dynamite with Adam Cole beating Jungle Boy. It was awesome to see Adam Cole, baby, in Rochester. I tell you what,
story time with Adam Cole.
I tell you what, it was a hell of a great match.
It was a great
between
match.
Those two.
Yeah.
And what, I want to say about 16, 17 minutes long
Just
for
about,
a match.
Yeah.
Honestly, there was a few times in that match where I thought that Jungle Boy was going to beat Adam Cole.
Oh man, I was sorry to interrupt you, but I remember specifically one moment in the match where there was quite possibly the closest near fall I have ever seen in a pro wrestling match in quite some time. Because I believe it was Paul Turner that was officiating the match. And, I think it was the Panama Sunrise, or maybe it was the Last Shot.
Yeah.
That
Jungle Boy was actually able to kick
out
out of the Panama Sunrise.
I thought it was it, and then next thing you know, you see him get the shoulder up. I was in the crowd. I was like, what? This is crazy. So absolutely, if you ever get the chance to see an AEW event live, buy the tickets, go see the show. You will not be disappointed.
No.
We certainly were not disappointed.
Honestly, that was probably the best wrestling event I've ever been to.
And
that
yes,
was in Rochester.
Keyword, best wrestling event.
Because, I tell you, they're not kidding. AEW focuses more on the wrestling than you
Yes.
do the talking. Yes, don't get me wrong. There was some, promos and there was talking, but the thing is, you don't really need that much.
No.
All you need to do is you can still tell a story by wrestling.
You
That's
can
what
still build a
wrestling.
story
That's
as
what
well.
wrestling fans don't understand. You can still build a story very well with, with wrestling. Don't get me wrong. Yes, you can have some promos and get there, but the action tells a bigger story than words. You know what they say? Actions speak louder than words. AEW is a prime example for it.
Yes.
I will say I give that match a really good rating. I really do think that Adam Cole and Jungle Boy starting off the night was a great match.
If
I
it's
really
not
do think that it's gonna build Jungle Boy to be an eventual top star if he was to say have a singles run. Going up toe to toe against one of the top names in Adam Cole showcased that Jungle Boy can eventually become like a TNT champion, a world champion in AEW in the near future. But right now, I know that they're building up Adam Cole, they're building up the Elite. I get it. Of course, it is also eventually leading to a big old tag team match that happened. It's Jurassic Express with Bryan Danielson against
Oh yeah.
the Elite.
Yep. Yeah. So it's the Elite versus Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy, Bryan Danielson, and Christian Cage.
Yeah, that's right. It's an 8-man tag team match. Um, the cool thing is like I get it, but again, I think it's really leaning towards a match of Full Gear where it's the Elite, and I'm hoping it is going to be the Elite versus Christian Cage, Bryan Danielson, Christian Cage, Frankie Kazarian, and Jurassic Express. That would be a great match to have. It's kind of leaning towards that way because every single week it's that group against the Elite. Make it happen at Full Gear. Everybody wants it. That's what you're leading towards. That seems like to be the biggest rivalry and the biggest story going into Full Gear is those two, you know, you can kind of call it a faction, like two factions kind of going up against each other. But it needs to lead to something. It needs to lead off to a great payoff.
Why not have it in Blood and Guts?
I mean, you can.
But at the same time, I don't know how much the fans would want to see two Blood and Guts matches in the same year.
That's
I
all
feel
right.
like you should have it as like a yearly thing of like, oh hey, here's Blood and Guts.
I think they should do it as a Survivor Series style elimination tag, like a 10-man elimination tag. That's what it should be. I think.
I don't know. Well, see,
Honestly,
that's not
I would
how,
be. I know, I get it. It's not
That's not
usually
like
what they
traditional
do.
war games rules.
But no, I say don't do any traditional war game rules. I think you should do it like an elimination tag. It would, I think, make for great wrestling. I know it's not traditional to AEW whatsoever, but I think that it'd be the right thing to do. If not, like, I get it. It's Minneapolis. It's Target Center. How about this? I mean, it's kind of hard to do because you're in an arena. You're technically in the basketball arena because the Timberwolves play in a Target Center. But I don't know. Do like a, I don't know, kind of like a stadium stampede, but instead like do it in like the Timberwolves practice facility. I don't know, like do something like that. I guess it's the only thing I can think of is like have like a match like that. But I don't know. I really do think that it seems like that's kind of like the directive that they're going. The Elite versus Jurassic Express and Company. And I would be all for it. I really do think that's kind of like what they're leaning towards. I don't know how you feel about that, Marty. I think that's what they're leaning towards.
Maybe, but honestly, I'll be okay with whatever they lead towards for Full Gear. I'm still gonna watch Full Gear regardless.
Right.
You know?
Because their pay-per-views have been
Their
Lights out.
pay-per-views are absolutely worth buying. Like we've watched every single pay-per-view since Double or Nothing 2020. So, technically, you could even say we started watching their like pay-per-views, but you can't even really call it a pay-per-view. It was free for everybody.
Right.
Fight for the Fallen and Fighter Fest
Yeah.
of 2019, when AEW first became a company.
Mhm.
I mean, we probably could have watched Double or Nothing, the inaugural Double or Nothing,
Right.
but you know, it's it's just one of those things that was like, would I love to see it? Yes, but do I have like an outlet to watch it? No. At the time, I didn't have an outlet. Now I have an outlet.
Right.
Now we have Bleacher Report. So now, and we've had Bleacher Report, like I said, since Double or Nothing 2020, and that's how we've been able to watch all of the pay per views. So,
Yeah.
you know, and yeah, like, Revolution could have been better, could have,
All right.
but
Right.
that's a whole different story for another day.
Exactly. Um, honestly, if there's anything about Bryan Danielson, he wants the rematch. He wants the rematch really bad, but he says Kenny
Well,
Omega
hey,
he doesn't want him to because
he's Kenny No Balls.
he's Kenny No Balls for a reason. He has no
Kenny
balls.
No Balls. Kenny No Balls.
Yeah, Kenny. He called him Kenny No Balls because he's too scared to.
He's too coward to take on a rematch against Bryan Danielson.
I think it's gonna eventually lead to a rematch at Full Gear. Because why out? Why not? Bryan
It's
Danielson
going to
has
lead to a
been looking
rematch, and
really
it's going to
good.
be for the world title.
It's gonna
It
be.
better be for the world
Well,
title.
it's definitely gonna be for the world title.
Otherwise, people
This
are going to
time-
be pissed.
This time it's gonna be a 16-minute time limit. I don't think it's gonna go into a time limit draw. I think it's gonna be one of those matches that could be, potentially like 30, 35, maybe 45-minute match.
I mean, Kenny Omega is no stranger to those kind of matches because, that's what he was belting out against Omega in the Tokyo Dome.
I think it should be a stipulation match because those two, in 20 minutes tore the house down
Yeah.
in Arthur Ashe Stadium. I can only imagine what would happen with a 60-minute time limit. I think you guys, I think AEW needs to give them enough time to just beat the living crap out of each other. I mean, they definitely did in New York City. I think they will in Minneapolis, Minnesota, November 12th. Definitely watch it then. It's on a Saturday. No, it's not on a Sunday, which is weird that, all that was on a Sunday, but now Full Gear is on a Saturday. It's
Well,
weird how that works, but
usually
it
the
works like that.
pay-per-views are on a Saturday, but in
Right.
this instance of All Out, they decided to have it on Sunday. I mean,
Right.
if you can make it work on a Sunday, fine. If you can't make it work on a Sunday, have it on a Saturday.
And then I had this question. Do you think the rematch will happen, or do you think that AEW is going to go in a different direction with the AEW Championship match?
There's one simple answer. Do I think there will be a rematch? Yes. 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 Yes.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a rematch. Tony Khan would be too stupid to not have a rematch between these two. He knows it's going to be a great draw. It's going to be a great match. And if I know anything about Tony Khan running his company, he knows how to run it a hell of a lot better than Vince Kennedy McMahon. Yes, he does have full control, and that means whatever. But I think he has learned a lot from the guys that were, his EVPs. Now that they really don't, they're still EVPs, but they don't really have much control. They don't really have final say. They can still
They
be a
can
part
still
of.
pitch ideas, they just won't have, like, full creative control.
Right.
Which, take it as you will, but at the same time, I feel like, you don't have to give these wrestlers, like, full creative control. As long as you're able to have them pitch their idea. Like, so, WWE says they let their wrestlers pitch ideas to them, but how much do they actually use those ideas? And for the right wrestler?
Right. Again, I mean, in 2 years, I'm pretty sure Tony Khan has learned enough from those guys he can trust his EVPs enough to run a company by now. Um, as far as that, Lee Johnson and Cody Rhodes beat Matt Sydal and Dante Martin. Cody Rhodes, again, is getting booed out of the building. Nobody likes Cody Rhodes.
Hey,
they like Lee Johnson.
Yeah.
They just don't like Cody Rhodes.
Hey, but let's not forget about Arn Anderson pulling the Glock.
Well, we're, nice teasing them. Of course, that was going to be the next topic. But, again, it just sucks. Matt Sydal and Dante Martin, they keep on teaming up. They keep on doing well. But the thing is, they just keep on coming up short. It's great and all to have them team up against each other, but have them actually get some wins.
Yeah.
Having Lee Johnson and Cody Rhodes win there, what did it mean? It didn't mean nothing. If you had Dante Martin and Matt Sydal win, it would mean a little bit more than having Cody Rhodes and Lee Johnson. I get it, it's a nightmare factory. You want them to win. You want them to get the opportunity to, establish that brand a little bit more. But what does it mean for Lee Johnson? He hasn't been getting anything. If anything, if I want to see anybody with Lee Johnson, it's Dustin Rhodes. It would make the most sense. I get it. Dustin was teaming up with QT Marshall, and that was getting something because they were coming out with Brandy. Brandy was taking up. Actually, no, I don't really even know if it was QT and Dustin. It was probably, I think it was Dustin and somebody else or something like that.
No, you're talking about the Natural Nightmares, right?
Yeah.
That was QT and Dustin.
Yeah, see, they were such a great tag team. And of course they took it out. I mean, I really do think that you gotta do more with Dustin. The cool thing is, I know Cody's getting that heelish way. What I would love to see, and I know we've seen it kind of here and there in WWE. We've seen it with Stardust and Goldust teaming up and winning the tag team titles.
Yes. Yeah.
I think what I would love to see, and I think it could work, is Cody and Dustin actually teaming up. Because they can be a little bit more of themselves.
Yeah.
But there's the only thing I can think of Cody. The only problem with that is I feel like with Cody getting booed and eventually probably turning heel, it means he would have to turn Dustin heel, and he's not really getting that bad crowd reaction. But right now, there just doesn't seem to be a hell of a lot of heel tag teams. So honestly, I would be okay with Cody and Dustin turning heel. But the thing is, Lee and Cody maybe could work too. But again, I don't know what else you can really do with Cody other than the fact that I guess he's going to go up against Malachi Black some more. The only thing I like about that is it'll establish Malachi Black as a big baby face. But the problem right now is to kind of make him off to be like a bad guy, but he keeps on getting a great crowd reaction, and Cody isn't.
The crowd loves Malachi.
Yeah. And who doesn't? He's a great wrestler. He's really good in that ring. Cody
just don't get
is
caught
good
by
too.
The black mass.
Yeah, don't. Now, of course, now with Arn Anderson, he leaves Cody behind because he said to Cody that he is somebody that if you open up the door and he tells you to get out, okay,
I'm taking
sir.
Your car. Okay, just don't hit it. Whereas Arn Anderson, if somebody comes up to him and is like, okay, I'm taking your car, you thought Arn Anderson will pull out the Glock and spill your brains out on the concrete. He's been spilling brains on the concrete since 1987. Or however long ago he's been. But regardless, Arn Anderson.
Now, I'm really wondering who Arn Anderson could match up with. There'd be something if he matches up with Malachi Black, and Malachi Black and Arn Anderson go out there, and Cody Rhodes is on his own.
Crazy.
But don't be shocked if Arn ends up being with like Lee Johnson or Dustin Rhodes or something like that. Or Arn just ends up being, out of the picture altogether. Or I think that there could be something with this too. I honestly think Malachi Black and Cody Rhodes will face off at Full Gear. I think Arn is going to get involved in this match.
Well,
I
you
think
would think
Arn is going to be turning heel with Cody, and
Mm,
Cody is going to be a little bit more established with Arn as a heel. And I think Arn will start talking a lot of Cody's battles and being that like monster heel on the microphone
that
for
mouthpiece
Cody.
for yeah,
Because Arn
that could
has that
happen.
Arn has that kind of heelish
Oh yeah, he
persona
pretty much
behind him.
built his career around being a heel.
So I really do think that Cody will get a win here against Malachi Black at Full Gear, and I think Arn Anderson is going to be the real factor in what makes Cody Rhodes turn heel. I think it makes the most sense. He's kind of out of the picture, but I think he's going to establish himself back up with Cody Rhodes because him and Arn Anderson make a great pair. I really do think that Arn is going to turn heel
It's a possibility that could happen.
with Cody Rhodes. It makes the most sense. I've seen a lot of wrestling of how that's going to work, and I think
Yeah.
that's kind of where they're leaning towards. And it'd make great sense for a storyline. It would make Cody look really strong going into whatever story they're going to go with after Full Gear with Arn Anderson. I think it makes the most sense. I can see it happening. And honestly, if you're going to hear it now, if that does happen after Full Gear, I'll come right here on the show, whatever episode that'll be by then, probably in, the 20s, if not the teens. I'll come on here and be like, I told you so. I'll come here first thing on that episode, if that does happen, and be like, look, I told you so. I called it. I've been watching wrestling for years to know that a lot of that stuff happens by now. Moving forward, the team of Moxley, Darby, and Eddie beat Bear Country. I don't know. There was somebody with Bear Country. I forgot who it was. I think it was somebody from the factory, but I have no idea. I don't know if you watched that match. I don't even know if it was part of Dynamite, honestly. It could have been part of Dark, just like a match that they had on there. I don't know if... Did you watch over Dynamite on TV? Did you see that
No, I didn't
six-man
watch
tag
over
team?
Dynamite, but
Okay, well, that match, it was alright.
it
But
might have
when
been taped for Dark.
Bear Country honestly got the the jobber entrance in the way.
Yeah.
Then you saw, fans chanting wild things.
Oh yes, fans singing Wild Thing.
It's cool to see Sting. It sucks that he didn't, wasn't involved in the match. It would have been cool to see Sting in action. But I guess the most physical he got was he Scorpion Death dropped one of the members of Bear Country there, which was really cool to see.
Was it
Moxley,
Bronson or Boulder?
I can't remember. I think it was the other guy that was with
Bronson's
them.
got the longer hair. Boulder's got the shorter hair.
But I really do think that, it was a pretty fast match. But seeing Moxley, Darby, and Eddie Kingston win against Bear Country, it was cool in the sense of what it was. I just think it was one of those things that just got put together for the hell of it, just to create as much time leading to the TNT title match, honestly. Because a lot of that time, that happens. But good for Moxley, Darby, and Eddie Kingston. It was great to see them, get the win. But I guess I'll just move forward. Dark Order ended up beating the Hardy Family Office.
With Orange Cassidy.
But
Dark Order and Orange
Dark
Cassidy.
Order still on odds. They still have some dissension,
Yes.
tension there.
But
But what was hilarious is seeing Brodie Lee
Brodie
Jr.
threw the
and
papers.
Amanda tell him, "You gotta do this for Brodie. Go out there and frickin' win this match." They went out there. They won this match with Orange Cassidy against the family, the Hardy Family Office. Man, Matt Hardy was pretty pissed and stuff like that. Ended up saying that it was well worth the 1.5 years of waiting. But Rochester is literally one of the worst cities in the world.
He was supposed to initially debut in Rochester. He did mention that.
Yes, he did mention that. It was great to see Dark Order get the win. I'm gonna come in here and say I guess I was wrong about the whole thing of who was gonna debut that show. I thought there was gonna be something. We did eventually get a date, somebody that was gonna make um a debut, I guess, or in or a return.
The man of the hour.
Oh my freaking god! Why the fuck
Nobody
does
wanted
Leo
him
Rush
back.
think that he needs to fucking be any part of AEW? Man, nobody wants
Nobody
you
wanted
in
him back.
AEW. Um, don't get me wrong. He has the ability to be a good wrestler. Don't get me wrong.
Well,
He has some ability in the ring. He's done really well
let
in
me.
the cruiserweight division. Don't get me wrong. But the thing is, Leo Rush is that kind of guy that I don't think he's gonna do very much in AEW. I really
I
do.
happen to agree with that.
Like, what are you gonna do with him? There ain't no AEW cruiserweight title. There ain't
Right.
no. There's a TNT title. Okay, who is he gonna beat to freaking get to there? Hmm.
You certainly ain't gonna beat Sammy.
Okay, cool. Is he gonna be a manager? Is he gonna be a wrestler? We don't know.
If he's
We
a
don't
manager,
even know.
it'd be Bobby
Okay,
Lashley
first
all
off, we
over
don't even
again.
know if he's gonna be just relegated to dark or dark elevation. We don't know what
True.
AEW is gonna do with him.
True.
That's the problem with that signing. Is okay, it's cool and everything. He says he makes millions of dollars, or oh, he knows how to invest in
Yeah,
businesses
sure. He
and
makes
stuff like
millions
that.
of dollars selling rap albums.
Well, let me tell you something, Leo Rush. You ain't shit. You ain't shit until you can prove that you are shit. All right, the shit. Better yet.
If you can
If you
turn chicken set or if you can turn chicken shit into chicken salad, then you've got something, Leo. But until then, I think you're still chicken shit.
Don't get me wrong, Leo. You had a pretty decent run there in WWE. Yeah,
Towards the later years,
he has his mental problems. I get that. We're not gonna really go into that. He came back, and I think his comeback there was when he was really
yeah,
on the rise
yeah.
up.
When he was the NXT Cruiserweight Champion, that was probably his best run like ever in WWE.
But the problem is AEW doesn't have that kind of division or that kind of title. Don't get me wrong, maybe AEW could eventually go that route, but the thing is they don't have enough of those kind of cruiserweights that could have that thing. That's the thing. Like, who's he gonna go up against? That's the problem with AEW with Leo Rush is like he's not that kind of guy that like screams, "Oh, you gotta book him strong. You gotta have him in these big old matches." Like, he's kind of that guy who's like, "Okay, we have it, Leo Rush.
My thing.
Let's put him on Dark Elevation. Let's
Yeah.
put him on Dark. Or let's put him on an occasional Dynamite and Rampage show." He's kind of that kind of guy. Like, cool. You have him to have him, basically.
If I had to choose where I would rather have Leo Rush go, I would probably say like maybe New Japan or some place that has like a junior heavyweight or like a cruiserweight or even a light heavyweight like division, because then at least it gives Leo Rush something to do.
Right.
Like, if he was in New Japan, easy. He could win the junior heavyweight title.
Right.
Like, that's no problem for him. If he's in Impact, he could win the X Division Championship. No problem.
See, that's the problem with Leo Rush. Leo Rush is that kind of guy that benefits from like a cruiserweight or a lightweight championship.
Yeah.
He's not somebody that can benefit from a TNT or a world championship. That's the problem with Leo Rush. He's somebody that like he benefited really well with being in WWE because they had the cruiserweight title. It sucks that he ultimately got released because of budget cuts and all the other stuff. I get it. Also, the big thing about Leo Rush I don't like is that he is arrogant, he's cocky.
He's way too cocky and arrogant.
He can't put that the cockiness to action. If you can put the action to the cockiness, like if you can prove that you're hot shit and you can beat the top guys in AEW, okay, I'll shut up. I'll be like, all right, good. You can talk about it. The only one I'm okay with being cocky right now is Kenny Omega because he's proven that he's literally the top in the game. He's the current AEW World Champion. He's somebody that can talk as much as he wants to.
Right. Even though I hate hearing him talk.
Even though, yes, I do. I'm sick and tired of it.
I
But
just
you know
don't like
what?
his character
I
direction.
love Kenny Omega. He's a great wrestler. When he
Yeah.
had that babyface run, I thought it was the best thing ever for him. Him teaming up with Hangman Adam Page, I think, was like the best thing for his career. Same thing with him being the AEW champion before the Elite turned heel.
Yeah.
I think that was the best thing, for him. I I loved all about him being the AEW champion. Right now that he's heel and his character directive with Don Callis, I don't like because he just acts like the biggest dick and thinks that he's the biggest freaking wrestler there is, which a lot of it could be very truthful. He's probably speaking a lot of truth more than he is anything, but it just gets annoying to hear every single freaking week. But if there's anything, Ty J beats Penelope Ford
Yep.
and the Bunny. I mean, at this point, I kind of figured. I mean, they just been on the top of their art. I think I'm just gonna go forward here. Darby Allin, man.
Yeah.
Now MGF is really getting underneath people's skins, saying you want to know the real reason why
He's straight edge. Is
he's straight edge is because
his uncle, right? His uncle
his uncle,
was a drunk basically, and tried to do all this stuff, and
yeah. Well, I'm okay with it. I think Darby and MJF will put on a really good match leading into Full Gear, which is only about a month away. A month and 6 days, just about. But I'm all for it. I think Darby beating MJF would be something. Don't be even shocked if MJF does beat Darby. And they've been kind of building MJF as that mega heel that can
yeah,
do well. But I think Darby, beating MJF would be something. But like, it's cool and all to have Darby, being as that singles guy. But like right now, I would like for him to actually do something with Sting. Right now, Sting is kind of just like there with Darby. He's not really wrestling, doing anything kind of thing. I would like for Darby and Sting to kind of be more involved in tag team matches to eventually lead into maybe becoming tag team champions before Sting hangs up the boots. I just think that Sting should be a champion before he does end up retiring.
I haven't.
Whatever it is at this point, honestly, even if it
Sting
is a
could
tag
even
team
make
title,
a believable TNT champion.
I think so too. But I guess I'm okay with him kind of mentoring Darby because they kind of do have those two same personas type of thing. Darby's just at the top of his level, but I think honestly, after hearing that promo, do you think that MGF again went a little too
Yeah,
deep with what he said?
But that's what MJF does. He pushes your buttons. He makes it so that you just absolutely despise him and loathe him because he is the salt of the earth.
Man, I tell you, from what I heard with him talking about Brian Pillman Jr., to go into what he said about Darby Allin doesn't really shock me anymore. I think he's going to use anybody's weakness against them. And honestly, it really did get underneath Darby's skin. Darby got right up into MJF's face. They kind of had a stare down, but tell you what, I'm ready for a Darby Allin versus MJF match. I think it would tear the house down. Be one of those kind of matches that could be, 15-minute long match. Because, there would only be like a 20-minute time limit match. But if there's anything, I'm definitely happy to see it live to tell about it. Sammy Guevara
Oh yeah,
beats Miro to become
such
the
a great
new
moment to
TNT
witness
champion.
live. Such a great moment to witness live.
Yes, it is. There was so many times in that match you thought Miro was going to retain.
Yeah.
But it literally took until the last possible minute of Dynamite for Sammy to finally beat Miro. And it came off of a 450...
At 6:30.
6:30 senton to Miro to pin him 1, 2, 3.
Lana is not happy.
Well, apparently she's not going to be down below on him. Yeah, sorry. I had to make that joke and throw that in there.
Yeah,
But
they just constantly make all those sexual innuendos, and it's like, really? Like, we know you guys are married, but come on.
right? And then honestly, it's cool. I I kind of didn't mind the white strap with like the green. Of course, now they are back to
Now
the
they're back to
black
the
with
black
TNT
with the
title.
red.
I didn't want to say it on this show, but a little teaser for you guys. They are going to they did announce the
Yes.
TBS championship.
Yep.
Dynamite will and Rampage will be going to TBS starting January 5th. Um, and the new TBS title is just basically the same TBS, like the
It
same. It
looks
looks
just
like
like the
just like the
TNT
TNT
championship.
title, except it says TBS, and this time the champion is in blue. I'm okay with that,
It's a pretty nice looking belt. I'm not gonna
but
lie.
the title just looks goofy. I like the
A little.
TNT championship a little
Yeah.
bit better. To have it say TBS, just I don't know. I think you could design the title a little bit better, a little bit nicer than what it is. Maybe if it was in the white strap with a TBS would look a little bit better. I had the black strap with that just I don't know. That kind of looks almost as bad as the red Universal
Oh
Championship belt when
man.
it first got
Yeah.
revealed, and everybody's like,
Yeah, that
"What?"
crowd was not happy about the Red Universal Championship when it was revealed.
Yep, no, they were not.
I
Um,
can say, I mean, like, certainly after the fact, it grew on everybody, and now we don't even have the Red Universal Championship. We have a Blue Universal Championship, but regardless, you know,
right.
people will get upset about anything in wrestling these days.
And then, of course, now we are shifting from Dynamite to Rampage.
Rampage.
Brian
Yep.
Danielson, okay, did on Dynamite challenge one of the Elite for a match on Rampage. And who was the one to come up to the draw? It was
Nick
Nick
Jackson.
Jackson, which was interesting. I'm shocked it was a Matt Jackson. But Nick Jackson came up to defeat against Brian Danielson. Um, Brian Danielson did make Nick Jackson tap out to.
Cattle mutilation.
Oh
Yep.
yeah,
Also, it's one of those things of like, I don't really want to mention it, but at the same time, you kind of. Man, I was one of the people that, kind of mentioned, like, hey, maybe we should get a chant going. And then next thing you know, you hear the chant. You're gonna get your fucking head kicked in.
and then you just
So,
hear. I mean, if you were watching on
if you were watching on Rampage,
TV,
Taz said,
Taz
"Oh
said,
wow, that's a long sentence to chant." So, not to mention, Brian Danielson, when he was wrestling Nick Jackson, he was, gouging at the nose of Nick Jackson, and Rick Knox was counting 1, 2, 3, 4. Brian Danielson looked at Rick Knox and says, "I have until 5."
yeah, kind of showing those like heelish Brian Danielson type of.
He was doing that in the Indies. He did that as Daniel Bryan towards his when he was the Planet's champion. So we're getting some elements of heel in a way, Brian Danielson. But honestly,
I don't think he's gonna
I
turn
don't think
heel.
he's gonna turn true
No,
heel.
no, not right now.
And if he
honestly.
does, it'll only be like maybe if he's the TNT champion or maybe the world champion. Who knows? Maybe he could make an eco-friendly AEW World
Oh
Championship.
God, please don't, please don't.
Made out of hemp.
Oh, please don't, because I'm sorry, that would just no,
He is the planet's AEW World Champion.
no, bad idea. Don't rehash WWE things, please don't, because then if that happens, it would just be like, why? I would just have to kind of shake my head and be like, no, don't.
Now, see, I'm the complete opposite way. I feel like if anybody is gonna do anything that WWE did and do it better, it would be Brian Danielson being making an eco-friendly AEW World Championship.
Nope.
Because I was actually a fan of that era when he was the planet's champion. I thought it was hysterical.
I mean, it was good for
It was
what
entertaining
it was,
television.
but I don't think it would work in AEW. AEW fans would be like, we saw this before. That's all they would say is like, nope. I think they would. I think they would shit on it more than anything, because that's a little bit hardcore
but you know
crowd.
what? I would love to see it.
As far as
How
that,
about
we
you?
go on. Oh, I mean, I can see him being the AEW champion. Just don't
He has to be
don't
an eco-friendly.
don't
He
make
has
it
to make an
don't
eco-friendly
make it
title.
don't make it
Come
eco-friendly. It's already bad
He
enough
has to.
It's already bad enough Miro had to change the TNT champion because he's God's
Well,
champion. Actually, I think that's the only reason why they had a white, because he was God's champion and God is usually white. I know.
Well,
I know.
he's the light, yeah. But
He's the light.
Well, actually, no. I think the reason they made it white was so that they could match the colors of Bulgaria for Miro.
Oh, white and green.
White and the white and green is.
Oh
Bulgaria.
yeah, probably. And of course, then they turn it back to what it was.
To the black and red, which is fine, but you know.
Honestly, I kind of wish they could have it as a red strap with the gold.
Yeah.
I know, I get it. They won't go back to that because that was Brodie's. Honestly,
Brodie Lee Jr. is the forever red strap TNT
for
champion.
me, what would have made the most sense in Rochester was to bring it out just for that occasion for Sammy to hold the red strap up.
Yeah.
For everybody,
yes.
just for that one night, and then eventually go to the black strap. It would have. I think it would have
if you were gonna do
really
that,
hit the heartstrings.
If you were gonna do that, have Brodie present the red strap. Have Brodie Lee Jr. present the red strap to Sammy.
Right, exactly. But going forward, 3 of the top women in the women's division went off against each other. With
Jade Cargill,
Jade Cargill being number 2, Thunder Rosa being 1, and I think Nyla Rose was 3. If I remember correctly, or maybe she was unranked. I can't remember. But they went up against each other in a triple threat match. Honestly, I applaud Jade Cargill because that asshole in the freaking crowd had the beer break.
Had a sign that said beer break,
and then she
just
flipped him off. I give Jade Cargill all the freaking credit in the world to say that because she went out there and proved why it is definitely not a beer break. That was a great
match.
Great match. If they can keep on having women's matches like that, and I've been saying it for years, I think Rampage should start having more women's matches in that sense. And I'm glad that they did have one for Rampage. And I think having a triple threat match was the right match to have because now you have your number 1. And that number 1 is Jade Cargill. And I'm totally fine with it. She is, I think, 16-0.
Yes.
I think she's 16-0, if not 17-0. Now I can't remember. But I think she's 16-0. She's undefeated right now. Britt Baker has a really tough challenge at her hands with Jade Cargill. Doesn't mean that Jade Cargill will win against Britt Baker, which I do not think is going to happen, honestly. I hate to say it. As much as I would love to see Jade Cargill win the championship, I just don't think she's credible enough with all the wins that she's had under her belt. The only true credible win was that one win against Nyla Rose and Thunder Rosa.
Yeah.
Does that mean she's championship material right now? I don't think so. I think she needs to have more matches on Rampage and Dynamite before she can become the women's champion.
She needs to prove herself more.
And I think having a loss will be all right for her for right now. Does it? I don't. It might hurt a little bit, in the sense that now she'll have that first loss. But then again, don't be shocked if she ends up beating Britt Baker. It'd suck because, Britt Baker has been on the top of her game right now. But I'm okay with it. It was also awesome to see
oh, yes.
The spot with Thunder Rosa putting Nyla Rose into the table there. I mean, damn. Honestly, that was awesome.
That was a hell of a...
they hear the holy shit chants. Yeah. And then, man, Jade Cargill...
Those holy shit chants were loud throughout the entire night. Not just for Rampage.
But, Jade Cargill ends up having the chair, beats down, I think Nyla Rose? Actually, no, Thunder Rosa with a chair. Man, I tell you what, Jade Cargill is proving she is that bitch for a reason.
Yeah.
And that's just not a statement. She literally goes out there. Honestly, I will say this now. I think she is the best rookie wrestler
Yeah.
out of anybody right now. She is proving that, like, with the little amount of wrestling experience that she has, which I think this is actually technically her first year ever in wrestling right now. She is proved.
She's been on like the indie circuits, but I don't think like she's
She doesn't
actually
have
been in the
much.
main.
She doesn't
Yeah.
have much experience
Yeah.
as a wrestler. In her short amount of time as being a wrestler, I really think that she's proving that AEW put the right kind of investment in building her up into a megastar.
Yeah. So like you could even make the argument of like Jade Cargill is homegrown talent.
Mm-hmm.
So because she came from
The
relatively
right kind
no-
of homegrown talent.
Yes.
Unlike what WWE is doing.
Yeah.
Where, if she was in WWE, they would have freaking ruined her in like a heartbeat. Well, maybe, I don't know. She has that kind of build. WWE probably would have made her into a star too. Don't get me wrong.
I don't know though. I mean, because
But then
it
again,
depends. Because
but then again, I'm glad with what they're doing. The other question is, with that win, does that move her into the number one spot to face Britt Baker? I think we kind of answered that. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Because you beat Thunder Rosa, who was number one.
Who was number one?
Now that kind of moves her up. You beat Nyla Rose. That kind of pushes her down. I think that pushes her down. I would assume it pushes her down to maybe 4.
Maybe 4 or 5.
Pushes Thunder Rosa to second. And it pushes Jade Cargill to number 1. But, I will say this now. Don't be shocked if there's like a match between Thunder Rosa and Jade Cargill one-on-one. Does that mean that, Thunder Rosa could win and eventually get to that number 1 spot? And going up against Britt Baker? I don't think so. I think Jade Cargill will stay the number 1 contender. I think she's going to go into Full Gear and have that first ever women's title match. And her first year as being a pro, honestly, it would be something. But to go 16-0, to have all those great matches, to beat, to teaming up with Shaq, to, beating up against Red Velvet. I mean, she's had some great, incredible matches against all these women. So honestly, I think that they're pushing her in the right direction. I'm okay with this push that they're giving her. I really am. I think that Jade Cargill is somebody that screams to be, that bitch to be the, one of the top champions in AEW right now. What does that mean for Britt? What does that mean for Britt Baker going forward? I have no idea. There's definitely so many directions that they could have with it. Honestly, I would be okay with Jade Cargill beating Britt Baker for the title. Then I think that after that, I think the next opponent for Jade Cargill would probably be Ruby Soho. Ruby Soho, I think they might build her up again to eventually get that match. But they could go in any direction. I think they're like I said here on this, on this podcast before, and I'll say it again. I really do think that AEW, with every division that they have right now, is in a good spot. Going into the future, they're in a good spot.
I could agree
It's
with
about
that.
time that it's like that. They're in a good spot. Their future's looking bright for all the divisions. And honestly, I think eventually it's going to get to that point where these veterans that definitely helped shape this company won't have to really worry about helping out these young talent. Because it's going to get to that point where this young talent knows how to control the company moving forward. And I think it's in good hands. And, you can definitely say thanks to, a guy like Chris Jericho, a guy like Cody Rhodes, guys like, all the other veterans that they have there. They're really helping that brand get to where it is right now. So they're definitely in good hands. As far as the main event,
Yeah.
Orange Cassidy didn't even know what kind of match he was in.
What is this match? What am I doing? Orange. It's a hair versus hair match, meaning if you lose, you have to shave your head. Oh, well then I guess I'm not losing.
Well, he definitely didn't lose.
He certainly did not lose.
Jack Evans Definitely made Matt Hardy
Jack
disappointed.
Evans going bald.
He went bald. It'd be interesting to see
Well,
what
he
he
didn't
looks like
really
now.
he didn't really go bald after Rampage. He kind of had the skullet going on, but I'm sure he did shave his entire head after the match.
Right. I'm sure he
see,
will.
We will see probably on Dynamite or Rampage.
Right.
This, you know, but
Yep, he ended up beating Jack Evans. Honestly,
yep.
I will think that Matt Hardy will come out and say like, Orange, this is the last straw. I want a match with you, and I want to delete you from existence. So don't be shocked if Matt Hardy does show, kind of broken Matt Hardy type
Well,
of.
the fans are back, and the fans are an integral part of the broken Matt Hardy like thing. So
I really do think
maybe
again,
yeah.
it all leads to Matt Hardy versus Orange Cassidy. I think it's gonna happen. I think it's gonna be an ultimate deletion match at Full Gear. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Orange Cassidy versus Matt Hardy screams a really good match.
Yeah.
And broken Matt Hardy, it makes the most sense. I'm sorry. And the Hardy family office. It's getting you literally nowhere.
Yeah.
They just keep on losing. Just have them all go on their own separate ways. Have Private Party go on their separate ways. Have Butcher Blade go on their separate ways. Right now you have Penelope Ford and the Bunny kind of as their own thing. Then you have Ty J as their own thing. I think eventually, don't be shocked if this happens. I think AEW is going to be the next company to introduce women's tag team titles.
Could happen.
Honestly, I think it's going to happen. They kind of seem like they're getting towards that direction where they're having women's tag teams together.
In that sense, AEW could also bring in trios tag team titles.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen too. I think when the move to TBS, I think they're going to. I think it was in the plans to, once they went to TBS to announce trios tag teams for. Honestly, I really do think for the next, like the third year, like basically season. Well, technically it'd be season 4, but it'd be season, because we're technically on season 3 right now. Because if you think about it, 2019 was season 1, 2020 was season 2. This is season 3. Basically, beginning season 4, but the third year of AEW. Don't be shocked if that's when they introduce some new titles. And I think it would be the right time to do it.
Well, I mean, think about it. AEW has unveiled new titles every single year. Because 2019, you had the world title and the women's title on the premiere episode of Dynamite. Then 2020, we get the introduction of the TNT title. Well, no, actually.
Well, 2021, we technically had the introduction of the TBS Championship.
Yeah. Okay, so in that sense, well, actually, no. 2019 is the introduction of the World Women's and Tag Team.
Yeah.
And then 2020 is the introduction of the TNT Championship. Then 2021 is the introduction of the TBS Championship. Who knows? Maybe 2022 is the introduction of the trios titles.
If not the women's tag team titles, but I think the trios tag
team titles are more likely to
makes
happen.
the most sense because there's so many trios out there right now. And I will say, honestly, I would be all for it. What I'm also all for is broken Matt Hardy to show up and the Hardy family office. And I honestly think that Orange Cassidy could be deleted. Yes.
Well, I mean, if Orange Cassidy is deleted, all he would do is just look at it and be like...
Yeah, he would kind of get that thumbs up. But don't be shocked if that's what ends up happening. It kind of seems like that's what it's leading towards. Matt Hardy's been getting really pissed off at the Best Friends, getting pissed off at Orange Cassidy. Now Jack Evans went bald. Just keeps on, the Hardy family office just keeps on losing to Orange Cassidy. Matt Hardy just can't do anything. He ends up sending his goons, and then his goons get beat up by Orange Cassidy. So don't be shocked if Matt Hardy just says, you know what? All right, if my goons can't do anything, I'll show them that I can get it done. and then I will delete Orange Cassidy. So honestly, I think it's going to lead into a ultimate deletion match at Full Gear in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the Target Center. I'd be totally fine with it. Hardy family compound there. Bring back the broken Hardy gimmick. It made the most sense for you. It was getting you somewhere in AEW. Then you had broken. You had Money Matt, and it's not really getting you anywhere. I'm sorry. The only good match that he had with that gimmick was him against Sammy. But that was broken Matt Hardy.
Yeah.
That was him being, actually, technically not. It was actually
No, it was almost version 1 Matt Hardy, but also kind of Hardy Boys Matt Hardy.
Yeah, and then it was an ultimate deletion match against Sammy Guevara, which was probably the most brutalist match. Honestly, left frickin' Sammy in a bloody mess, and then he comes back.
Competition's in the mud. You love to see it.
Then it comes back literally the next week afterwards, unscathed.
Yeah.
How much? You think how much of that was staged and how much of that was him really beaten down, bloodied in that match,
Right.
So. Again, I think that's going to conclude this episode. Don't be shocked with a lot of the things that I said end up happening. Of course, I'll come on here, and if it ends up going in a different direction, I'll say it. But I'm all for with what they're leading towards. I think this is the one time right now, heading into a pay-per-view, where we don't even know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is, of course, the only thing that we don't know is... who could be in line for the World Championship. If it is Bryan Danielson or if it's somebody else. Of course, we don't know who is, was a Joker, honestly. But we'll let you know next episode on episode 8. We'll let you know all the details from Dynamite and Rampage. So, definitely catch a watch on this.
We'll also let you know what
if you
happened
want,
on Impact.
If you want to know more, definitely support our YouTube channel as Tinkle Sports Entertainment. Follow us on social media platforms. You don't want to miss any updates on there. We try to update you with content on there as much as possible, especially on Instagram and Twitter. Mostly on Facebook right now, but we also do have Instagram and Twitter. Just follow us at Tinkle Sports anywhere on there. Support the channel in every way. Please like, comment, and subscribe to No Final Bell and also our other programs on Tinkle Sports Entertainment. We do have Tinkle Sports Talk. We also have Friday night out of Turn 4. We also have Tinkle Friday Nights with Zach Carmine. He brings on special guests every Friday. It is live as well at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please, take a look at the channel.
Make sure
support
you hit
other.
The bell
Yes.
So you always get notified when
Please.
We go live.
No, it is no pun intended because of the podcast name. Please hit the bell icon. You will get notified about every episode or every
every post,
every new video that comes out. Again, I know you probably don't want to hear us talk too much more, but again, we on Tinkle Sports Entertainment, we will talk about more of what's going on, as there's been some interesting news on here. If there's anything, Jalen Smith got released. He's now going to be picked up by the Green Bay Packers. Stephon Gilmore gets traded to the Panthers. And I tell you, NBA has been, rolling into preseason, but it's going to be heading to the regular season soon. And another player ends up retiring. LaShawn McCoy ends up retiring. As well as... Pau Gasol ends up retiring from the NBA. And a little background, I guess before Russell Westbrook was a Kobe fan, he said that Pau Gasol was one of his favorite players, which I found very interesting. But that will conclude this episode of No Final Bell. Please, again, watch us. We have 6 more episodes that you can catch up on if you're confused of who the hell we are at this point. But again, that will conclude this episode. Until next time, guys, please ring that bell and watch wrestling.